So today I'll be talking about this topic, vitamin K antagonists and newer oral anticoagulants reversal. So this talk I gave in Thailand on 27th May 2019. So as a case-based discussion of reversal of these agents. So we'll just go through the case. So this was a case we managed in our ICU. It's a real case. So it was a 71-year-old male with ischemic heart disease who underwent percutaneous intervention in December 2017, following which he developed LV thrombus and he was a case of dementia. So I think I want you to put your mind on to the combination of the drugs the cardiologist, he was a senior cardiologist, so you would see that it is a very inappropriate prescription of two anticoagulants for this case. So I would qualify this as a malpractice because this is a very dangerous practice where you put someone on two anticoagulants along with prasugrel. So this patient was put on dabigatran, 75 milligram OD, along with warfarin 1 milligram OD, along with antiplatelets prasugrel 10 milligram OD. So he presented with headache, vomiting, and altered sensorium. And on clinical examination, his GCS on admission was 9. Then it slowly deteriorated to 4, E1, M2, and V1. So promptly CT brain was done for this patient. So we showed this. So we showed acute right temporoparietal subdural hemorrhage. And as you see, there is a midline shift with mass effect. So investigations at that point of time revealed INR of 2.41, APTT of 31 seconds. And platelet was 1.53 lakhs. As you see, the thrombocytopenia, we understand it is less than 1.5. So it is on the lower limit of normal. So the question I would have for the audience is, how would you approach reversal of anticoagulant effect for surgery? Because this patient has developed acute subdural hemorrhage on the background of having received dabigatran with warfarin with antiplatelets, and he has to go for surgery. So how would you plan the reversal? Well, let's go one by one because you saw his INR is prolonged. So is there a role for vitamin K because he is on vitamin K antagonist? So the recommendation is you give 10 milligram IV as infusion over 20 to 60 minutes, maximum of 1 milligram per minute every 12 hourly. And vitamin K is known to correct INR in hours, so it takes little time. And complete reversal is achieved after 24 hours with the use of vitamin K. Another thing we need to remember is with vitamin K, the reversal of warfarin is sustained. So once it reverses, it remains sustained for a pretty long time. So the other essence that we need to understand is vitamin K need to be used along with FFP, fresh frozen plasma, or prothrombin complex concentrate. So the recommendation is not to be used alone. So it is to be used in combination with FFP or prothrombin complex concentrate. So just talk a bit about prothrombin complex concentrate. So there are two types of prothrombin complex concentrate. So one is 3-factor prothrombin complex concentrate, which is currently available in India, which has factors 10, 9 and 2, 9 and 10. Then there is 4-factor prothrombin complex concentrate. In addition to these factors, it has factor 7. So this, I believe, it is not available in India. So prothrombin complex concentrate is known to normalize INR more rapidly than vitamin K. The dosage of prothrombin complex concentrate, if INR is more than 6, so the dosage is 50 units per kg. If INR is 4 to 6, it is 35 units per kg. If it is less than 4, it is 25 units per kg. And the dosage is 3 units per kg per minute up to 210 units per kg per minute. That's the maximum dose of prothrombin complex concentrate. Corrects INR in 30 minutes and the onset time is around 15 minutes. And it is shown to reduce the hematoma expansion and improve the survival. So there are some recommendations. We do suggest that 3-factor prothrombin complex concentrate could be used along with FFP. But the key adverse effects of prothrombin complex concentrate is it can cause arterial and venous thrombosis. So that is the complication. But the advantage over vitamin K is it acts much quickly, and the effect may not be as sustained as vitamin K. So, and the FFP, so just to understand FFP, it contains all factors. It contains factor 5, factor 8, 400 to 900 mg of fibrinogen, protein C, protein S, antithrombin, and tissue factor plasminogen inhibitor. So the recommendation is FFP to be used if prothrombin complex concentrate is unavailable. So 8 units of FFP is known to completely reverse warfarin effect. And dosage is 15 to 30 ml per kg at 1 to 3 ml per kg per hour. Effect time is 12 to 30 days. As you saw, vitamin K also takes hours. This also takes little longer time. Prothrombin complex concentrate was much more instantaneous. But the problem with FFP is the effects is very unsustained. It is not sustained for a very long time. So what about role of recombinant factor 7A in reversal of vitamin K antagonist? So it's not recommended. And 3-factor prothrombin complex concentrate with recombinant factor 7A has been sometimes used anecdotally. Other agencies activated prothrombin complex concentrate. There is no role. And the suggestion or recommendation is to maintain platelets more than 50K, 50,000 in the reversal of warfarin. And DDVP or the desmopressin could be considered in the presence of platelet dysfunction. So what about suggestion when there is increased INR without bleeding? So this is a patient where INR was prolonged with warfarin with bleed. So when there is no bleeding, so the recommendation is if INR is more than 10, vitamin K 2.5 to 5 mg could be used as a single dose. And as we see that it causes substantial reduction in INR and it is sustained for much longer time. If INR is 4.5 to 10, the recommendation is warfarin could be held for 1 to 2 doses. That's all. If INR is less than 4.5, you can skip one dose. So there's no need to give any of these FFP or vitamin K or prothrombin complex concentrate if INR is in this range, 4.5 to 10. Only if it's more than 10, one could consider vitamin K. So there's no role for any other agents. So we'll go to NOACs, newer oral anticoagulants. So direct thrombin inhibitor is dabigatran. So as you saw, this patient, elderly man, had got dabigatran. So the other newer oral anticoagulants is factor 10A inhibitors, which are rivaroxaban, apixaban, which are available, edoxaban, and the new one, betrixaban. So when patient is on any of these NOACs, as this patient was on dabigatran, the key evaluation points is to determine when was the last dose given. That becomes very important, and I will tell you why. And it is important to look at renal and hepatic function, and it is important to see the coagulation derangement when patient is on these drugs. So I think this slide is little important. So we need to understand when someone is on newer oral anticoagulants, the anticoagulation effect resolves after 5 half-lives of that particular drug. So what that means is every newer oral anticoagulants has a half-life. So it needs to pass through 5 half-lives for that effect to completely wear off. So for example, if you see dabigatran, the half-life is 12 to 17 hours. So the days for elapse of 5 half-lives is 2.5 to 3.5 days. For rivaroxaban, the half-life is 5 to 9 hours. So days for elapse of this would be 1 to 2 days. Apixaban 8 to 15 hours, 1.5 to 3 days. So edoxaban 6 to 11 hours. Your days for elapse of kind of half-lives is 1.3 to 2 days. So on and so forth. So this is the way we determine as to when the effect wears off when they are on newer oral anticoagulants, because it takes 5 half-lives and we need to at least remember this tabular format to determine until when the effect lasts or when the drug has to be stopped before taking up for elective surgery. So what about dabigatran reversal? As we saw, this patient was on dabigatran 75 milligram on alternate days. The first thing is obviously to discontinue the drugs. And the antidote for this or dabigatran reversal is achieved with idarosizumab. So the dosage is 2.5 grams into 2 doses within 15 minutes apart. And if there is ongoing bleeding, or if surgery is planned, or coagulation is impaired, then the suggestion is to repeat this dose, same dose, 2.5 grams into 2 again, when there is an ongoing bleeding or post surgically if you are anticipating bleed, or when there is a coagulation impairment. And hemodialysis also is suggested if this drug is not available, because it is shown to clear the drug to some effect, but we do not have good data to say how much of reversal happens, but that could be considered in the absence of this drug. And in presence of liver impairment or renal impairment, there is no need for dose adjustment of this drugs, idarucizumab. If idarucizumab is not available, the suggestion is to use activated prothrombin complex concentrate at 50 to 80 units per kg at 2 units per kg per hour. And the suggestion is made that this drug has to be used only in plastic syringes with liver locks. So, if activated prothrombin complex concentrate is not available in the setting of dabigatran usage, then you could consider using 3 or 4 factor prothrombin complex concentrate at 50 units per kg at 3 units per kg per minute, not to exceed more than 210 units per minute. And when you are using any of these agents like activated prothrombin complex concentrate or PCC, it is to be clearly instructed to nurses, if you are using 3-way cannula, not to pull the blood back, because it causes fibrin clots, and these clots, when they are pushed in, it can cause embolism. So it is very important, because if you are using your other liver locks, I think then you can't aspirate. But when you're using 3-way cannula, so there is a potential that a nurse would draw the blood and then inject. So when you draw the blood, there will be a lot of fibrin clots and you can cause thromboembolism. So that instruction needs to be given when you are using 3-way cannulas. And if APCC is also not available, you could use tranexamic acid 1 to 1.5 grams 8 to 12 hourly. And the dosage is IV 10 to 20 milligram per kg as bolus, followed by 10 mg per kg 6 to 8 hourly. Maximum rate of 100 milligram per minute. So tranexamic acid to be considered when these agents, idarucizumab is not available or activated prothrombin complex concentrate is not available. So you could consider use of theta amino capric acid, epsilon amino capric acid at 2 grams IV 6 hourly to 1 gram Q hourly, and oral 3 grams 3 to 4 times per day. So these are the agents one could consider in the absence of idarucizumab or PCC. So hemodialysis, as I already mentioned, or could be considered for clearance of the drug. Oral activated charcoal could be considered if the patient presents within 2 hours of consumption of this drug. So we'll come back to this case. So the 71-year-old male, so with LV thrombus, who was getting 75 milligram dabigatran, warfarin, prasugrel. So in our hospital, in our ICU, we gave idarucizumab for this patient, 2.5 grams into 2 within 15 minutes apart. Along with this, we gave 4 units of FFP to reverse the INR, and we gave 1 unit platelet count, because you saw thrombocytopenia, it was 1.53, so which is on the lower limit of normal. We gave 1 unit of platelet before surgery and 1 after surgery, along with vitamin K of 10 mg IV stat and as infusion over 20 to 60 minutes. So this is the regime we gave for this particular patient who presented to our ICU. And after that, patient was subjected to emergency right frontotemporoparietal decompressive craniectomy. So this was the image, CT image of the patient post surgery on day 4. So there was a minimal residual STH. But the problem with this patient is day 8 he developed a rebleed. So the point I need to raise is, if you look at the usage of idarucizumab, it is clearly mentioned that if patient is being subjected to surgery and there is the potential risk of rebleed, then a second dose has to be considered. So in this patient, we had not given the second dose after surgery. So you could argue whether that may have prolonged the action of dabigatran. But I would have thought, since it is day 4, there is no bleed, whether the effect had worn off, because we know 5 half-life to lapse would be around 3.5 days. But since there is minimal residual STH, as you see, and there is some bleeding, we don't know whether the bleeding started from there and then progressed to this effect. So one could argue on that. So, so that was about direct thrombin inhibitor reversal. So what about factor 10A inhibitor reversal? So the new drug which is still not available in the market is andexanet alpha. So this andexanet alpha is an inactive factor 10A which acts as a decoy receptor which utilizes the receptors so that your factor 10A cannot act on the receptor. It's inactivated 10A. And since the receptors are all utilized, so this factor 10A effect becomes negative. So the dosage for andexanet alpha is, if you are using rivaroxaban less than 10 mg or apixaban less than 5 mg for more than 8 hours, the andexanet dosage is 400 mg at 30 milligram per minute, followed by 480 mg at 4 mg per minute as infusion over 120 minutes. If you are using rivaroxaban more than 10 mg or apixaban more than 5 mg, when patient presents less than 8 hours, then andexanet dose is doubled, 800 mg at 30 milligram per minute, followed by 960 mg at 8 mg per minute over 120 minutes. But as I understand, this drug is unavailable in India at this point of time. So if andexanet alpha is unavailable for factor 10A inhibitor reversal, you could consider using 4-factor prothrombin complex concentrate at 50 units per kg IV, or you could consider using activated prothrombin complex concentrate at 50 to 100 units per kg, which has a limited data. So recombinant factor 7A is not recommended if andexanet alpha is unavailable. And for fresh frozen plasma, there is lack of evidence. So tranexamic acid you could use as adjunct when any of the above are unavailable at the same dosage I mentioned, 1 to 1.5 grams, 8 to 12 hourly. Maximum rate would be 100 mg per minute. So thank you very much. So that's about the reversal of NOACs and vitamin K. So I would end my talk with this quote. So don't depend too much on anyone in this world, because even your own shadow leaves you when you're in darkness. Thank you.